Hi, this is Luke from Instant Chaos, and today we're going to take a look at unboxing Dinosaur World. Dinosaur World is essentially the evolution of Dinosaur Island from Pandasaurus games. The the interesting to note about this game is unlike Dinosaur Island had the term essentially an extreme edition. This one doesn't seem to imply whether it's a Kickstarter version or not. I'm guessing the only way you could truly tell is where they've got these heat printed dinosaur meeples on there. But I guess I'll have to take a look and see what the retail one would look like before we can really confirm that that's what it is. Other than that, we've got 3 expansions, which I will go through later. We will be going through the Ice Age pack, the Hybrid pack, and the Water pack. So there is a 4th expansion, which is not shown here, and that is essentially the Dinosaur World upgrade pack. That is essentially a time release for the Kickstarter edition. Was an upgrade for Dinosaur World. So other than that, I also got the Jeepos upgrade with the screen printing. So let's just start with this. So as part of the Kickstarter campaign, we've got 4 different Jeepos. So I think I probably like the green one the best, even though it's on a slightly different color, but I think the green one reminds me a little bit more of Jurassic Park more than the others do. Yep. So since I got it from Kickstarter, they realized they made a mistake. The factory only sent us 1 of each when they should have sent us, I believe it should have been 4 of each. So that was the Jeepos. Then we all got a Recruiter promo. In case you want to know what this does. And essentially a thicker board for tracking the player order as well as the victory points. So I'm not sure why this one is it came separately, because in the Dinosaur Island this was actually was one of the main boards, so that's interesting. All right, I'll move this to the side first, and let's move on with unboxing Dinosaur World. So in terms of the game, I really liked was it Dinosaur Island. It was a bit on the neon color side, and I know a lot of people didn't really like it. I didn't mind it either way. And because I like Dinosaur Island, I was pretty excited for Dinosaur World. However, when I did observe the campaign did seem, was it not quite what I was expecting. So what I meant by that was they really changed up how the game, I guess essentially the mechanics worked. They kept some of the core, but they really changed quite a lot. So I guess in any type of evolution, there will be some changes. Time will tell whether this is better than Dinosaur Island or not. So let's take a look at the box. Straight up, I think I do like the color of the box. It doesn't have as much of a present as Dinosaur Island does, but that's because Dinosaur Island was very neon colored, as I mentioned before. We have a decent size standard paperweight. It's not linen finish, so it's just pretty standard. Lots of pictures and examples. And this one here is the Kickstarter version, because you can see that it mentions like the hybrid pack as well as water and the Ice Age, where the retail one will not have a combined rules for the expansions. Got some, looks like some marketing material from Pandasaurus games. I'll let you just look at that yourself. Chance. We've got a little, looks like a postcard something. Yeah, starting to see a little bit more of these. I'm not sure if they were always here, but yeah. Next is the three essentially main boards. So if you thought Dinosaur Island took up a lot of table space, I believe this game will take up even more table space. So looking at this one seems to be the central board for essentially making the dinosaurs or the dinosaur paddocks. Then we have here the attractions and the special buildings. So these are the different types of I guess attraction tiles on your particular park in terms of how you would like to build it. So each one will do different things. Obviously, if you're going to I guess a Dinosaur Island or Dinosaur World, you're there to see the dinosaurs. But they also have stuff like roller coasters and cafes and whatnot. Yep. So we've got a lot of the tiles. Just take this off. All right, and then we have a bunch of tiles. Let's start with these two here. So these two is essentially for the player boards. So you'll notice that the small details of I guess of the player boards is you notice that the roof is a little bit different. So some of the buildings, the top buildings look very, very similar, but as you go down, you can see the roof changes quite a bit in design, as well as the security and garage. I'm not sure if you can see that properly, but the garage is a little bit neat because this picture represents the Jeepo. Let me see if I can go find that Jeepo again. So you can tell that this board goes with that Jeepo, and this particular player board will have the green Jeepo, and obviously the other two will go for the others. And one of the things I was a little bit wrong before was you notice that these 5 arrows, the 5 arrows is what these Jeepos are supposed to represent. So we currently got 1 of each, so I'll be expecting Pandasaurus to send me another 16, which is 4 of each color. So based on this, having a quick look, this is your first player token. This is your keeping track of your victory points. If you hit over 50, then you put that on your board to say you got 50, and then you just start the counter again. There's a few, I'm not sure what they are. I'll have to double check the rules. Not 100% sure what this recycling looking one is. And this, of course, it is actually for recycling because I've got this, and so this one looks like it's same spot as a player marker, so I suspect this is nothing actually. This is just for you to throw away to the recycling bin. All right, over here is essentially for your security level. Let's turn it this way. So if you hit over 10, you put this at the bottom, and then you carry on counting. This is the other 2 colors for the Jeepo roots. All right, so I won't go through all the boards, but I'll give you a quick rundown as to what each token represent. So this one looks like it's all on the dinosaur pins. All right, and then to the side is essentially the money. This is the threat tokens you have, and this one is I can't remember what the term was, but one of the things about the park is about generating excitement for your park. So this one lowers the excitement for the park because you'll see that there's a little space here. What it means is every time you visit the Brontosaurus, the people are less and less impressed or less excited by visiting Brontosaurus because they came here previously and they've seen it before. So this is a very new concept that was introduced in Dinosaur World, where a attraction is only as attractive as how new the attraction is. Well, that's a little bit of a mouthful, but if you understood that, that essentially means if something's been there for too long and people keep visiting it, then they get bored of it over time. Right, so this is the back, just to help you organize the tiles. Looks like I see anything really different. So this one has some new tokens down the bottom. So these tokens to represent the threat level of the dinosaur. So the more threat you have, the more security you're gonna have to add to your park. So this is your essentially the basic attraction tiles. They changed the rules. I kind of miss a little bit of the Dinosaur Island tiles because they gave you some very funky names in terms of the restaurant and the merchandising, as well as I think there's like roller coasters and whatnot. But this one doesn't seem to be as creative in terms of the naming conventions. Yeah, so it looks like it seems like it's such a shame that they seem to have lost their creativeness in their naming of these shops. So the fact that all the shops, well, merchandise shop just seems to be called merchandise shops is a little bit boring. I did like it in the Dinosaur Island that there was just these little naming conventions that they had that just made it a little bit more thematic, and I guess it clicked towards me than just a boring, I guess, security or just a merchandise shop. So I guess looking at the rest of this, I can see there's the goat pen. So I guess that's a tribute to Jurassic Park. But also in the expansion for Dinosaur Island, it should be called the Totally Liquid expansion. There's a module that introduces specific buildings or unique buildings, and the goat pen was one of them. But it looks like it does very different to what the Dinosaur Island one used to be. Right, look at this. I can see there's these tokens. I'm wondering if these tokens are to represent the Jeepos in the meantime, but otherwise I don't think I've seen enough of them yet to know whether there's enough of these to cover every single player. The other thing you'll notice is also there's these 3 tokens. Essentially they are variable, I guess, starting powers that you could have that make your park unique to yourself in terms of how you like to play. You can start with being extra secure or gain more money during the turn, get more basic DNA. I think there's some that will help you start with extra worker and so forth. Sorry, that might be the extra, this might be the advanced DNA and that's the basic. I'll have to double check that. All right. Looking at this, there's still, I don't think there's anything new that has been introduced. I'll let you look at these tiles yourself at some stage. Don't really want to have to run through each one. So yeah, so it looks like anything with that symbol is just to help tell you to recycle. So it's just, they probably just had to send a factory template of these, and then anything that they're not using, they just put this instead of extra printing. Right, so look at the player boards. Yeah, I think I was right before that. I was looking at the advanced. I had made a mistake earlier. Right, so this is now your player board. It's a little bit, I can't remember if it's bigger or not. I feel like this is, at some stage I'm gonna have to do a comparison. But you can see, if you're familiar with Dinosaur Island, is this side looks very similar as far as this. So this is your basic DNA, this is the advanced DNA. You still start with 2 basic DNA and 1 advanced DNA. The thing that seems to have really changed from the DNA side is you no longer have to worry about your storage. So they optimize and streamline your I guess DNA capabilities by removing the management of having how much, or your maximum storage limit. So now your maximum storage limit is 10. And yeah, nothing much really to say about that. So same old threat level, nothing different there. So as I was saying before, if you had the +10, then you put it in here. Interesting enough, this is probably what this, I think, is a misprint for them. This should have been I think that should have said 0 plus to represent that there's nothing here. And then when you put the 10 plus token in here, then you know it's now 10 and then 11 to so forth. Yeah, I'll probably prefer a symbol like that one over this side as well, or maybe have that top symbol in here instead of having that 10 plus. Then you got your usual security side. It's very standard. As you climb your security, it will cost you 1 for the lower level, 2 for the higher, and so forth. I did notice a change. A change is, in the last one, if you hit over 10, all of them cost 5. This one seems to imply that they start again at 1. Yeah, and then look at security. That's pretty standard. Start off at 0, and then the more security you have, the higher, well, the more it costs you. So at level 1 and level 2 security, it's going to cost you 1 coin each. Getting to level 3 to level 5, it will cost you 2 coins per level, and so forth. I might have to double check the rulebook, but one of the things that seems to be a little bit odd is it used to be if you managed to hit 10 plus in terms of your security, and in other words, this is now 11, then all of this would have cost 5. So I'm not sure what happened here. I'll have to double check the rules on that to see whether the rules are the same, or if you get to 11, it's now back to 1 coin, which seems cheaper, but not sure what that is. They then introduce a new module. This is, I guess, the technology for your Jeep. So you start off with, let's say you start off with that. Then every round, you will increase your security by 1, sorry, for free. If you happen to be in that one, then you get 2 coins. So that makes a interesting, I guess, variable player start. Everyone gets to choose. They have the same set that they can choose from, and it just caters to people and how they prefer to play. So some of them might be to gather money, starts with an extra worker, gets with more DNA, more security. So it's essentially up to each individual player and how they wish to play. The boards themselves, they're pretty thick. I think it's dual layer, but it seems very thick for dual layer. Not sure if you can see this. This to me, sorry, I don't think this is going to focus very well. Let's see if I can put this. All right. Ooh. So this seems to be more towards 3 layers than 2 layers. Yeah, I don't think that's going to focus very well. In terms of the thickness of it, but obviously it's only really there for 2 layers because you're slotting something in here. I think they just made it extra thick for some reason, but I'm not complaining. I prefer this. Right, so I do have a board. Let me bring the one that they sent me by itself. Looking at the comparison, I do not see a difference. I might have to check. I might have to double check the Kickstarter page to see why I have 2 boards. Maybe it's just a spare one for some reason. But yeah, can't see a difference. So briefly run through this. The person with the least victory points will be the first in terms of the turn order. So the from least to most victory points is what the turn order will be. Then you've got your excitement level. Excitement level is what generate money for you. The interesting thing is, if you look at the bottom, that's what the money they generate. So it's not a 5 mean 5. In this case, sorry, 5 does mean 5, but over here 6, if you had excitement level 6, you also only get 5 coins. So even though your park is super exciting, you may not get as much coin as you expected. Yep, just double check the other board and it looks like it's the same, so it wasn't a misprint. This is the intention. And as you can see, I think it's just a way to manage the catch-up mechanic more than anything else. As you can see, this board only goes up to 50 points, which is why there's a token marker that you can put on your board to say you've hit 50, and then you start again from here. So you start with your turn order. So this confused me at the beginning of what this meant. So there's actually only 5 rounds. So you can see 1 to 5 down the bottom. But there is a cleanup phase. So that essentially means your cleanup phase. And this one here means you can move your starting location for your welcome. Actually, I didn't really mention that. So let me find that. So at the start of the park, your park might look something like this. This is essentially the entrance to your park. And then you'll add in your other attractions around your welcome center, and that's essentially to represent the start of the park. Your Jeepo will start here, and then they can just visit the attractions around it. So by round 3, or just after round 3, before round 4, you'll have that. And what that means is over time, your park would have grown across, and you may have visited these attractions a number of times, and so they're no longer as attractive to the public anymore. So what this does, or what that symbol means, is you switch it over to the park entrance and you put it further along, and then that way you can visit the attractions around the park entrance that is further away, and therefore you get the public an opportunity to see the more exciting part of the park that they haven't seen before. Yeah, so that then there's the excitement is essentially for the generate income. So you can see that it scales up to a point and then it starts trailing off. So I think it's more towards a kind of like a catch-up mechanic to help the trailing players catch up a little bit more. So you notice that 6 is also only worth 5. Where previously, if your excitement was 1, you get 1, 2, 2, blah blah, and then but 6 you now get 5, 7, 6, and then you can see it scale. And even if you reach 20, you only get 15 points. All right. Oh, that's interesting. So it looks like I've got 2 sets of Jeepos. So I've got another set of Jeepos in here, and a Pandasaurus. Oh, let me take that out. A Pandasaurus Jeepo. I don't think this is used for anything. I can double check that, but if I do find out, I'll put in the comments. But I believe that's just a bonus Jeepo for Kickstarter backers. But this is one of the things you'll get as a Kickstarter backer. And that is a first player token, and essentially just the amber that your people should be very familiar with. Touching this, I don't feel like essentially any kind of like stickers on it. I don't really feel any difference than just touching this translucent piece. So this heat printed sticker seems to work very well. So if you got the Kickstarter edition, these are the kind of meeples you would get. You get that heat printed essentially picture on there. If you got the retail, this picture isn't on there. As you see, yeah, so they print on both sides, which is great. But if you got the retail, you will not see the picture here. And I'm not sure what I think of that, because in Dinosaur Island, the meeples or the T-Rex meeples clearly look like a T-Rex. So without this picture printed on here, I'm not sure if I would have been able to tell that this was a T-Rex based on just the shape itself. So, and as I was saying, if you don't care about how your meeple looks, then you won't need the fourth add-on pack, which they will release later. They could refer to it as a timed release. All right, so let's see what the others are. All right, then we got our small carnivores. Yeah, sorry, let me just quickly see if I can find them all. All right, so there's 5 of these. Let's just put them all the right way. So I think the small carnivores, the retail edition will just use, I think it's this one. It's essentially just the Velociraptor, and they'll use that as the meeple shape for all small dinosaur. The good thing I do like about this in terms of the retail edition, because the retail edition for Dinosaur Island, I believe it's just a Triceratops. So it's the Kickstarter edition that really gets into the different shapes of what the dinosaurs are supposed to look like. I think personally I probably prefer that over the picture, but the pictures are still quite nice. And as these are smaller, they're definitely easier to store. Right, and then we have the herbivores. Let's see if I can find all the herbivores. Who am I missing? Alright, so it looks like we have more herbivores than we do have the carnivores, which is, I guess, is technically true since carnivores has been split into large and small. And like I said previously, that was a Triceratops. And in the retail edition, is the meeple for the Triceratops, the Velociraptor, and the T-Rex. And it's also, they did it so that it's all in their respective colors. So obviously herbivores are green, small ones are purple, not sure why it's purple, but it's purple, and large ones are red. Alright, next one I'll look at the coins. So I'm not sure about you guys, but I do love my metal coins. Alright, let's start with the number side. So I'm not sure what I think of these. In terms of, I do like the asymmetry in terms of like their value. So the ones is obviously 1. Actually, let me just, before I make further comments, and I like the fact that the ones are herbivores, and you've got your, I guess, the small carnivores that looks like a Velociraptor skull to me, and then the T-Rex skull for the 10. So I say I'm a bit conflicted because I do like this, but it doesn't have the heft of the metal coins that I'm used to and the things that I really liked about them. I believe the one in Dinosaur Island was thicker and a little bit heavier. So, oh, there's a little bit of an imperfection over here. But oh well. Let's see, we can see. Yeah, but you know, for someone who doesn't have Dinosaur Island, I think these are perfectly good coins. But like I was saying, they don't seem to have the heft like a standard metal coins that I'm used to feeling. And I'm not sure if anyone else would really notice, but I definitely notice it because I do like playing with the coins in Dinosaur Island. Next, we have our very familiar looking amber dice. There is 9 amber dice. I guess in theory we could potentially mix and match with Dinosaur Island, but I'll probably just keep them separate. I don't think it will really change up the game all that much. So, see the translucent. I think it looks about the same, just as Dinosaur Island. I don't think there's anything that's really different or new about them. Alright, okay. Oh, so we've got a Pandasaurus HQ, which I believe is a Kickstarter only tile. So this I believe is exclusive. Alright, so I think I'll put this aside here for now and see if I can find, where is it? So what I'm looking for, I don't normally go through cards, but I think this one is relevant. So if you bear with me, phase 1, let's just grab one of these, round summary. So looking at phase 1 is hire workers. So what will happen is we'll shuffle these and we'll pick up essentially 1 plus the number of player. So if there's 2 players, then you grab 3. And then in turn order, you get to draft what your workers will look like. So you notice that the workers have some different colors. I will go through them when I talk about those workers afterwards. Straight after that, you will roll the amber dice. So again, is equal to the number of players plus 1. And then we will go to the public action. So the public action, this tile, is based on the dice. It's a multiplier based on the number of workers you will assign to this. So if you assign 1 worker to this particular dice, you'll get 2 basic DNA. If you assign 2 workers to this dice, then this is facing in and out. Then you'll get 4 basic DNA. So over here it'll be 1 advanced DNA. And if you assign 2 workers, it will get 2 advanced DNA. Sorry, that just seems to be not focusing correctly. So that's if you want to get DNA, then you can go around building attractions, build a dino paddock, or build special buildings. All right, so I guess this is a good chance to look at the meeple. So I've taken this ahead of time, but let's say this blue one. Not sure if you can see this blue meeple. Fine. So it's interesting that these little meeples, is not only are they essentially color coordinated to their purpose, they've also made them slightly different shape for, I guess, those who are more towards colorblind. And you can see that this one is essentially for the top, it'll be the blue, and this is your scientist meeple. the scientist meeple gets the opportunity to get more DNA if you use it for gathering the dice. Then the next one is essentially the green meeple. Can't remember what the green meeple is called actually. I believe he's the administrator, and the administrator essentially makes it cheaper to buy a dinosaur paddock by one. Then you use any color meeple, doesn't matter which one. You can buy a special building, or you can buy an attraction. Buying the attraction will not cost you a worker, it will just cost you the money associated. And then we'll come to the phase 3. So after public action is private actions. So as you notice, public action is done in turn order, and you kind of wait for each other. Private is you manage your own board, and everyone manages their own private boards. So it's a little bit based on honesty. Yeah. So to know what your private action is you switch the public action board around, and that will tell you what your private actions are, or the options you have. So one is to refining the DNA, which is essentially this part here. So essentially is if you've got the basic, I guess this is red and blue, you can make the advanced purple. But you can also, I guess, split the advanced purple DNA and get a red and blue. So that's why you've got an arrow back and forth. If you use a blue meeple, which is your scientist meeple, then you get an extra basic DNA. Then one of the other option is to essentially make a dinosaur. So make a dinosaur is on the bottom of your board. Example like the Triceratops. So if I was to put this back here, this is essentially a meeple of any color. You can make up to 3 dinosaurs in one round. Doesn't matter which dinosaur you make. So at the moment it's these, but as we move to, I guess, the add-ons, you'll have like the water dinosaurs, the hybrids, and essentially the Ice Age ones. I think they're all done the same way in the same spot. So the cost of the dinosaur, however, will be shown up here, as well as whatever's in the individual slots. So your very first Triceratops you make will give you, you will require to pay a basic blue and an advanced purple. So that's the cost of the first Triceratops you add to your park. If you add a second one, it's the same. However, if you add a third one, you notice that you now have an extra requirements in terms of your recipe. This one's a little bit odd. I'm not sure the thematicness of, I just made up that word, thematicness, or how thematic this particular theme is, as in the more of the same type of dinosaur you make, the more DNA you require. So that's, for me, is a little bit odd. I'm not sure what I truly think about it until I play it. And at the bottom, it shows you your reward. The lightning symbol is a little bit odd to me, because the lightning symbol is essentially a once-off reward as opposed to being an ongoing reward. I'm guessing in the other add-ons, as I take a closer look at them, they may have some ongoing effects, but essentially the lightning is semi-pointless in my view at this moment. It means it's a once-off reward, which means you increase your threat level by 1, and you get the victory point as dictated by here. So for the Triceratops, the first one you make is 1. If you make a second Triceratops, then you get 2 on top of the one that you've got previously, and you got another threat level on top of the other one you had previously. So for this pen, if I had 2 Triceratops, I would have 2 threat level, and I would have gotten 3 victory points from making the 2 Triceratops. Right, so going back to this, we've got the Jeeple Garage. So this is to increase our garage. Going back to this board, this is the Jeeple Garage that you're looking to increase. And you'll increase it based on here. So you start off with a cube, one of your colored cubes in here, and as you go up levels, that's the cost it will be. So it's the same as the security level, where level 1 is kind of like just cost you that 1 coin, but as you hit the next level, it will cost you 2 coins. But the interesting thing about this one is now you add another token here when you hit the second level, and you get essentially an extra bonus each round. So that was for the Jeepo. Now this will also show you the purple meeple. The purple meeple is referred to as the park ranger meeple, and the park ranger, what he does is it reduces the cost of the upgrade by 1. So this is the park ranger meeple. So what that would mean is if I use this and I place this here, then if I was already here, then to get to here, it will only cost me 1 coin instead of the 2, because it's a discount by 1. Yep. If I use a generic white meeple, so I haven't shown this yet, but this is just a generic seasonal worker, I think is what they refer to it as. If you just put that there, then it's just the cost of whatever this one happened to be at. Right. So after that, we've got security. Security works like the Jeepo garage. So instead, you put one here. You put your yellow one. So it's a good time to introduce the yellow meeple with his little ranger hat. And so what he would do is, if you put him here, it will reduce the cost of the upgrade by 1. So if I was to go to here, instead of paying 2, I'll pay 1. All right. And then last of all, we've got the VC funding. So that is back to the administrative meeple. And essentially what this means is you put a meeple here, you get 3 coins. You put one here, you get 2. You put one here, you get 1. But if you put a green one, the green meeple here, instead of getting 3, you will get 4. So that's 3 plus the 1 here. Yep. And that is your private actions. So now, if you go to the Jeepo tour, the Jeepo tour one is a little bit hard to show because that will require multiple tiles, but it's essentially a new concept, and that is to activate your attractions in your park. Yeah, I won't show this one here because it's just a little bit of a mess to do, and it'll probably take up way too much time than we would have. But this here's a quick summary of it. You can go to the different sites and you can place workers to activate it or not, as some of them will have special activation costs. And then you can see the increase of boredom. So the more time you spend in a certain place, the less exciting it becomes for the public. And then the 5th phase is essentially getting the new income and cleanup. So your income is determined by your excitement, which is what that part means. Then you get threat. And I didn't really talk about threat as much. But, well, sorry, this one does have the threat, but there's another version of the threat that I didn't really show as much, which I'll talk about afterwards. And then you essentially clean up the rest. I'll just leave that to your own reading. And that's essentially a quick summary, well, quick, not so quick summary of the 5 phases. So one of the things I didn't really talk about was these threat dice. So you notice that there's 3 colors: green, purple, red. Now, if they look familiar to you, they should, because this is essentially the dice you roll for the Jeepo. When the Jeepo activates the herbivore attraction, that's for when the Jeepo activates the small carnivore attraction, and when the Jeepo activates the large carnivore attraction. So every time your your Jeepo goes towards those locations. You roll one of these dice to see um, if those dinosaurs at the time threaten your visitors. A more Euro style and you don't want the random factor in it, then I guess you can just exclude these dice. But they just add a little bit of luck to your game. All right, so I just took 5 that I got from the side. So these are your different types of meeples. So again, the purple is your park ranger, in no particular order. Purple is the park ranger, blue is your scientist meeple, yellow is your security worker, green is the administrator, and white is just your normal worker, which they refer to as your seasonal hire. Last of all, just player cubes. Nothing truly spectacular. There's one transparent one. So yeah, let me just take these out. And there's the one transparent one. So these are your different colors for your different players. And then that's your transparent ones, which is essentially the round marker. Oh, I forgot about the new Dinosaur World bag. They chose a standard blue with a light blue as opposed to the neon green with pink in terms of the stitching. And the bag is for drafting the dice. But one of the things I never really told you or never really mentioned, obviously the point of the game is to get the most victory points, which is essentially pretty self-explanatory. There are various ways of getting victory points. So most of them you get it from making a dinosaur, because obviously it is Dinosaur World. The other ones you can do is you have to achieve objectives. So I was wrong before. So these tokens, which essentially has all the different Jeep pictures on them, they're there to mark who has achieved their objective first. So look at this. If you're the first one to achieve essentially making in your Dinosaur World, your Dinosaur World has 2 herbivores, 2 small carnivores, and 2 large carnivores, then you can, if you're the first to achieve it, you get 7 victory points. If you're second, you get 4, then you get 2, and if there were 4 players, then the last one get nothing. Now, this is the one that I wasn't sure about, because this causes a rush on the board to try and achieve, to see who will achieve this objective first. So in the original Dinosaur Island is, if you both achieved it in the same round, then you will both get the point, otherwise you will lose out the opportunity of earning the point. So this one makes everyone rush. I guess it puts a little bit of a timer on your thinking or your planning, to be very precise when you hit that private phase, so that you can try and achieve these objectives as quickly as possible. You'll notice that for the objectives, they'll be set into 3 different lots, A, B, and C, and I believe they're all just essentially to spread out the different types of objectives they are. I don't believe that they are harder as they get along. So like this one's all, I guess objective A is all about dinosaurs. That is a lot of herbivores to get. And then objective B seems to be more towards getting a variable amount of things. So this is essentially getting each attraction, or each type of attractions, should I say. So your merchandising, the roller coaster, I guess I can't remember what the food one's called, a dino maybe, and then the security. And then the last one, which is C, is all very different. So I think they just try and keep the objectives quite varied, so that you can focus on different things. Otherwise, if you, let's say, got 3 different dinosaurs, then you can't really achieve all 3 at once, especially if you got this one and this one. Imagine trying to get that many herbivores and try and get small carnivores is like maybe not even worth it. So that's objectives. A solo variant in here. So in the solo variant, you have to achieve certain objectives by certain rounds. So you can see by round 3, you have to probably try and achieve this. Now, one of the things that they did add, which I may or may not introduce to my main game, is specialists. So there are essentially 6 specialists to the park. And then with the specialists, then you can, they will have different powers, but they're once off. You just put a meeple on there. But the difference between this and the meeples you put on the board is just don't leave this card. So like the architect, you can only use this power once, but the scientist you can use her power twice. So this is mainly used for the solo variant, but I may use that as part of my main game just to make the park more asymmetric, because I'm a big fan of having asymmetric powers per faction. All right, and so this here will be done for the Kickstarter of Dinosaur World, and next I will open the hybrid expansion. All right, and then now we'll take a look at the hybrid pack. Now, this is probably what I would call I would say this more towards a horizontal expansion than a vertical one. Vertical one tends to mean it adds a lot more new rules. This hybrid one essentially means, so essentially what this means is the hybrid dinosaurs are of 2 values. I guess this sheet shows it best. So this one's essentially says there's 6 different types. You've got a hybrid of small and large. Like you got 2 small and large. You got 2 herbivores and small carnivores, and 2 herbivores and large carnivores. And what that means is, if you had an achievement that requires what is it, 2 herbivores and a large carnivore, but let's say you made 3 Tyrannoceratops. So if you make 3, you can use 2 of them to represent the herbivore and the 3rd one to represent the large carnivore, and you would have made that achievement. So this one, the hybrid one, is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to add. I don't think it adds that much more to the game. So if you were to skip one, this can be easy skipped or easily add on depending on what you're looking for, because this is a very nice and easy horizontal expansion to include to the game. Obviously hybrid dinosaurs will cost more. I'll actually, let me see this. So you can see that this one seems to cost you quite a few DNA. You can only make 3 of each. So they're all 3 of each. The interesting one is, instead of rolling the threat dice, usually there's a threat dice that you roll that will say someone got killed accidentally as they were visiting that pen. You will now also roll the hybrid dice, and the hybrid dice, and this is the available options, and depending on what you roll will be the level of excitement or security that will add to your park. So this here is the dice. Standard translucent dice. This is not a dice you'll really add to the bag, but it's more towards the play area for whenever someone... Alright, not sure what happened there, but it's just my camera just randomly cut off. So I'll just quickly pack this away. And the next one I'll probably look at is in terms of I guess, difficulty versus the benefit of the expansion. I'll probably look at doing the Ice Age one next. Alright, so I went with the Ice Age one next because I think the Ice Age one is not quite the easiest, but the one that has the most interesting, I guess, addition to the gameplay. Because unlike the hybrid one, essentially, a dinosaur is considered as both two different types of dinosaurs, whereas the Ice Age one seems to add a little bit more to the gameplay. Right, so what does the Ice Age one add? So I think the first thing I'll notice is it adds essentially two of each type. You can see what the Ice Age ones are. I thought it was interesting how the cave bear is considered a small carnivore. Maybe I just don't know my Ice Age what would you call it? They're not dinosaurs, but maybe mammals. But I don't recall this being a carnivore. So it's in order to the mammoth. So it's interesting how they chose this not based on I guess whether they're carnivores or herbivores, but based on the size of the Ice Age mammals. So as before, you got a pin for each of those. And then you got nice transparent ones. So let me just quickly bring these out and then I'll start talking about the rules. All right, so let me try and organize this. So essentially for the Ice Age one, as mentioned before, it looks like they did it based on size. So this is your small mammals, your, I guess, medium-sized mammals, and the large-sized mammals, because they're not really carnivores or herbivores by their definition for the large ones. This I'm not sure, they consider the saber-tooth and the ice bear, I think, I can't remember, is it the ice bear or cave bear as the small carnivore, but the mammoth as a large carnivore. Interesting choice, but yeah, I think they changed the rules for this one a little bit. So you notice that these are nice transparent pieces now. They're clear to represent the Ice Age, which is a little bit neat. I do like this concept that they've gone with treating the expansion to be a little bit more, I guess, on the premium side. So what does the Ice Age want? The difference between the Ice Age and the normal standard game is it adds essentially two interesting concepts. So the first one is, in the original game, a dinosaur pen, or in this case, I guess just a mammal pen, wasn't allowed to be next to another dinosaur pen. But because the Ice Age mammals are warm-blooded, and therefore they pretty much need to be next to, or they can be next to another dinosaur. And so you actually get bonuses based on where they're positioned. So you can notice here that if there was a small carnivore on this side, you'll get a bonus 2 victory point. If there was a security building next to on this side, it's worth an extra 3 victory point. So the Ice Age one, you can actually, most of the time, you will place your dinosaur pen essentially in a image facing towards you. So this will be legible facing towards you. But for the Ice Age ones, you can actually rotate it based on where your other building tiles happens to be, or attraction tiles happens to be. So that's one of the new concepts where they've added the fact that the positioning of these mammal tiles actually makes a difference. And just like the hybrid pack, the Ice Age pack comes with its own dice, and this dice is not added to the bag either, and it's used for the at the end of the Jeep tour, where you get to roll this dice instead of the danger dice for every, I guess, mammal paddock that you have that contains at least one Ice Age mammal. As you can see, it's also more beneficial than the danger dice. So yeah. And then last of all, let's take a quick look. Pretty sure that doesn't. And then last of all, we will move on to the water pack. Now look at the water pack. And from what I saw, the water pack seems to be the one that has that's more towards, I guess, horizontal, if you would. That it does change the game a little bit more than the others do. So this one here has a number of in-game conditions that will add if you got the dinosaur pin or dinosaur paddock. So of the 3 packs, I think this is the one that's the most complex of them. If you want a little bit of a challenge in your game, then you can probably try this pack. So I guess to start off with, we'll take a look at the 3 types of water dinosaurs that you can get. Same as every other pack, there is 2 herbivores, 2 small, in this case 2 small carnivores and 2 large carnivores. So what this game adds is it adds a in-game condition. So you can see the EOG stands for end of game. So at the end of the game, you get an extra victory point for every herbivore on every other tile. So if you have the hybrid ones, they will also apply to this as well. You can also see that they are not cheap to build. And as a reward, you get a threat level, you get 3 victory points, and then introduce a new concept called algae. So these are your algae tokens. So, and just to quickly run through this, the herbivores give you extra victory points for herbivores, the small one give you extra victory point for every small ones, and obviously large for large. Let's just take a look at the dinosaurs first before I talk about what the algae is. So let me just grab one of each. Alright, and these are the 6 water dinosaurs that you can get. Nice translucent blue to keep in tradition of the, I guess, ice white for the Ice Age. The hybrid one seems to have a golden yellow, probably to represent amber more than anything else. But it's a nice way to differentiate what your different dinosaur meeples are, especially if you got it from an expansion and you want to be able to easily separate them all out. So algae adds a little bit of difference to the game. So there's 2 parts to the algae. With algae, if you don't manage them, they will cost you excitement, and excitement usually means money. So if you don't manage the algae properly, they will cost you money per round. If you clean up more than 1 algae, so for every 2 algae that you clean up, you can essentially swap them out to be a basic DNA. And to clean them up is, regardless of whether you visited this particular sea dinosaur paddock or not, you can put a worker on there and the worker will clean up an algae. So this one I'm not too sure about, because it's one of those things, it's a little bit more complex. It adds an additional content that you have to manage that you didn't really have to before. And it's also, you have to weigh up whether a water dinosaur is worth the hassle it is to manage the algae just to get the victory point. So as I play them, I'll probably add all the packs in, and I'll let you know at some stage what seems to be worthwhile or not. And so that's why of the 3, I think the water dinosaur one is the one that is the most questionable in terms of the value, but it's also the one that will change the game the most. Right, last of all, we've got the water pack dice. Just like a dice for every other pack, They also have its own rules. Now, the water pack one is different because unlike the others, you usually roll or replace the danger dice roll with the pack dice. But this one, we don't have a danger dice. We roll this, essentially the water dice, at the start of the round. And so what this shows is how much I guess how polluted our water paddock is that the right term is, and how much effort you will need to essentially try and get that cleaned. So like I said, the water pack one is the one that's probably the most complex. It will add the most, but it's one of those things that you have to weigh up whether it's a good addition to the main game or not. Personally, like I said, I'll probably easily add in hybrid, and if I want a little bit of a challenge, I will add in the Ice Age one. This one I'll probably add last, just simply because it changes quite a lot. It adds a new mechanic called algae that you also have to manage, so that's just something else to manage. And yeah, so I hope this is of some help to you. If you've got any questions on the rules or how to play the game, or that I could help and assist to clarify, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks once again for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers.